For nearly 2 decades, we've watched the Brown family unravel on camera. We've scrutinized every marriage, every divorce, every meltdown, and every carefully staged confession. We thought we knew the history. We thought we knew the timeline. We accepted the story that Kody Brown presented to the world. That his journey into fatherhood began with Logan, the responsible eldest son of Janelle. Logan has always been the crown prince, the proof that polygamy could create stable, successful leaders. But what if the family tree we've been staring at for 17 seasons is missing a branch? And not a twig, a foundational branch. We've received whispers, insider theories, and persistent rumors from deep inside the fundamentalist community, suggesting the Brown family's origin story may be built on a lie. The headline circulating in back-channel forums and ob circles is nothing short of nuclear. A DNA bombshell that changes everything. A man in his early 30s, someone raised entirely outside the chaos of sister wives. Someone who has never been on camera and has zero interest in being a reality TV personality, has allegedly come forward. And he isn't claiming to be a cousin. He isn't claiming to be a fan. The allegation is that he is Kody Brown's firstborn son. Born before Logan, born in secret, hidden for 30 years. Before we open the files on this alleged DNA bombshell, I need one favor. The algorithm hates controversy and this story is radioactive. So please smash that like button right now. It takes 1 second and helps us push this investigation further. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and ring that bell. You're not going to want to miss what comes next. Ready, let's go. Take a deep breath, Sister Wives crew, because to understand the gravity of this theory, we have to deconstruct the timeline we thought we knew. For 30 years, the narrative has been simple. Kody marries Mary, they struggle with fertility. Their marriage becomes strained. Then Kody spiritually marries Janelle, and almost immediately Janelle becomes the fertile wife, producing Logan, the firstborn son. In fundamentalist culture, the firstborn son isn't just a kid. He is the heir, the father's proof of virility, righteousness, and leadership. Logan's birth cemented Kody's identity as patriarch. But if this new information is true, the entire foundation shifts. The rumors point to a window between Kody's marriage to Mary and his union with Janelle. A period when Kody was young, zealous, traveling for church duties, and obsessed with proving himself to the AUB. The theory suggests that a man, let's call him John Doe, grew up in a monogamous adoptive family somewhere in the Intermountain West. He always knew he was adopted, but the paperwork was sealed. A closed adoption, common in religious communities that need to hide a scandal. One day, seeking medical history, not drama, he took a DNA test, something like Ancestry or 23andMe. And the results came back with a direct match to the most infamous polygamous family in America. Not a distant cousin, not a long-lost relative. A parent-child or full sibling level match with known Brown family members already in the system. If this is real, the implications are staggering. It means that sometime around the early 90s, Kody Brown fathered a child out of wedlock. The biggest sin imaginable in his doctrine. Was it a secret courtship gone wrong? A spiritual union the families later denied? Or something darker, a moment of weakness that the AUB elders covered up to protect Kody's future? Because let's be clear, having a child outside of a recognized spiritual marriage would have been catastrophic for Kody's social standing. So here's the scene insiders are piecing together. A young woman from a well-known fundamentalist family becomes pregnant. To avoid scandal, she is quietly sent away. The baby is born. The adoption is arranged discreetly. Kody is instructed to repent, to stay silent, to never speak of it again. He's told to move forward, to build his real family, to focus on Mary and eventually bring in a second wife. Now imagine Mary, did she know? Imagine being a young wife struggling to conceive while knowing, or suspecting your husband already fathered a child with someone else. That kind of resentment could rot a marriage from the inside out. It adds a devastating new layer to their 30-year emotional war. And now imagine the child, growing up playing Little League, going to school, building a normal life, while Kody Brown appeared on national television crying about his stress, ignoring his kids, and flaunting a sports car that couldn't even fit his family. Imagine being that child, now a man, watching season 1 of Sister Wives and seeing a man who looks exactly like him, the eyes, the expressions, the mannerisms. Imagine the moment he typed the Brown family names into Google and found the show, found himself on screen in the reflection of Kody's face. Sources say the son contacted one of the Brown kids, allegedly Gwen, the family's most outspoken critic and the least likely to cover for Kody. He reportedly sent DNA documents, dates, and even a photo, and the person who saw it felt like they were looking at a ghost. The resemblance, according to whispers, is uncomfortable. Now think about the Brown family's psychology today. Christine gone. Janelle gone. Mary finally done. Most kids estranged. The family fractured beyond repair. If a secret this big was ever going to leak, it would be now. And the reactions? Devastating. Logan, the golden child, would learn he wasn't the firstborn at all. That he carried the weight, responsibility, and emotional labor of a role that never truly belonged to him. He wasn't the heir. He was the replacement. The boys, Hunter, Peden, Garrison, Gabe, already estranged, already furious, would see this as confirmation that their father is the man they feared. Someone who discards children. Janelle would see the lie as spiritual fraud, a betrayal of the hierarchy she believed she entered into honestly. Christine would be heartbroken but compassionate, the one most likely to welcome the lost son with open arms. Her kindness would infuriate Kody, and then there's Robin, whose entire power structure rests on controlling Kody's narrative and securing her children's place at the top. A biological firstborn son older than Dayton, Logan, or any of them. That is her worst nightmare. She would frame him as a threat, a danger, a stalker, anything to preserve her control. But DNA doesn't care about narratives. It doesn't bow to tears. It doesn't sign NDA letters. And here's the most explosive detail whispered by insiders. This alleged first son has children of his own. In other words, Kody Brown may already have grandchildren he has never acknowledged. Grandchildren born into stable homes. Grandchildren untouched by polygamous trauma. Grandchildren thriving without him. That is the deepest irony of all. Kody spent his life trying to build a kingdom. But the first branch of his family tree grew without him, stronger and healthier than anything he built. And that brings us to the final question: if this son goes public, if the DNA becomes impossible to hide, if the fandom crowns him the true firstborn, the rightful heir, what happens to the Brown legacy? And what happens to Kody Brown when he is finally forced to face the one thing he has spent 30 years running from, the truth? A story of a patriarch, his 4 wives, and the slow, painful implosion of a 2-decade-long reality television experiment. For years, we watched the tears, the property disputes, the betrayals, and the divorces play out on camera as if they were the whole truth. But what if all of that, the drama, the arguments, the emotional breakdowns, was just a carefully crafted distraction? What if the real story, the one happening quietly behind the scenes, was something much bigger, much darker, and far more dangerous than anything TLC ever allowed the audience to see? Because as the cameras rolled and viewers cried and argued online, something else was moving in the shadows. Something that didn't fit neatly into episodes or confessionals. The more you look beneath the surface, the more the official narrative stops making sense. The timing of events, the sudden silences, the unexplained disappearances, the people who used to talk, suddenly stopping, and the people who never talked, suddenly being pushed into the spotlight. For years, fans believed the Brown family was simply crumbling under the weight of jealousy, religious conflict, and Kody's choices. But the deeper we dig, the more it becomes clear the implosion wasn't just emotional. It was strategic. It was controlled. It was intentional. Something was happening off camera that no one was supposed to notice. The cracks began appearing long before the public ever recognized them. Tiny inconsistencies, odd reactions, unexplained decisions. Moments that seemed insignificant at the time now stand out like warning flares. Why were certain conversations never filmed? Why did key family members refuse to participate in specific episodes? Why did the network suddenly shift its editing style, right when the family's internal battles reached their peak? It wasn't just emotional collapse. It was coordination. Someone was shaping the story. Someone was deciding what the audience should see, and what they should never, under any circumstances, suspect. And that becomes clearer when you examine the children, the ones who grew up in front of the cameras, the ones who once spoke freely on social media and podcasts. Their voices used to form the backbone of the fan community, raw, honest, unfiltered, but then, almost overnight, those voices went silent. Posts were deleted. Accounts went inactive. Statements were withdrawn. Fans noticed the sudden disappearance, but they never asked the right question. It wasn't, why aren't they talking? It was, who told them to stop? Because silence doesn't just happen. Silence is imposed. Silence is enforced. Especially when people know too much or when they are too close to the truth. While viewers argued over villains and victims within the family, something larger was being concealed. Something the network didn't want exposed. Something the Browns themselves were terrified of letting slip. And the closer you look, the more it becomes clear they weren't just protecting a family. They were protecting a secret. The turning point came quietly, almost invisibly, disguised as just another season of chaos. On camera, the family was splintering. Off camera, something else entirely was unfolding. The children who once spoke openly began pulling back. The wives who once contradicted the official narrative suddenly aligned their stories. Even Kody, usually impulsive and unpredictable, started choosing his words with unnerving precision. It was as if someone had flipped a switch. Look closely at the timeline and the pattern becomes unmistakable. Whenever sensitive topics surfaced, money, documents, church ties, legal exposure, off-camera conflicts, the footage shifted. Scenes were cut. Key details blurred. Confessionals were reshot. The story redirected. Again and again. Almost like someone was cleaning footprints before anyone noticed they were there. And then came the real giveaway, the reactions that didn't match the circumstances. People crying when nothing had happened. People going calm when everything was falling apart. People showing fear in moments that, on the surface, didn't seem frightening at all. Fear is a language. And the Browns were speaking it fluently. Whatever was happening behind the scenes wasn't just personal. It wasn't even just financial. The tension in their eyes, the way conversations stopped the moment cameras cut, the way certain names were never spoken aloud, those are not the behaviors of a family simply struggling with internal conflict. Those are the behaviors of people who know they're being watched. People who know they're being listened to. People who know there will be consequences if the wrong truth gets out. The closer the chaos became, the more controlled they acted. And that contradiction, chaos mixed with control, is the clearest sign that we're not dealing with a collapsing family. We're dealing with a contained operation. Something orchestrated, monitored, and carefully maintained. And that's when everything finally snaps into focus. The sudden silences. The edited conversations. The fear hidden behind rehearsed smiles. The children disappearing from social media. The wives rewriting their own histories. It all points to one thing: the Brown family wasn't just protecting themselves. They were protecting someone else. Or something else. Because when people are afraid of losing a relationship, they cry. When they're afraid of losing money, they negotiate. But when they're afraid of revealing information, they go silent. Completely, strategically silent. That kind of silence only comes from pressure, real pressure from forces outside the family dynamic. That explains the moments viewers brushed off as strange. Like the times Kody shut down topics with unnatural urgency. The way Robin constantly played gatekeeper, redirecting or shutting conversations before they got too close to certain subjects. The times the older kids hinted at things they weren't allowed to say, only to immediately correct themselves with a nervous laugh. These weren't quirks of personality. They were tells. The truth is hiding in the things they won't talk about. And once you start piecing those fragments together, a chilling picture emerges. The show wasn't documenting a family falling apart. It was masking a controlled narrative designed to keep the public focused on divorces, jealousy, favoritism, and petty arguments, while something deeper operated off camera. Something tethered to the very foundation of how this family came into the spotlight to begin with. The implosion of the Brown family wasn't the story. It was the smoke screen. And now, with the children quiet, the adults terrified of stepping out of line, and the network desperately steering viewers away from certain truths, the real question we should be asking isn't, what went wrong with the Brown family? It's, what are they still trying to hide? And who doesn't want it exposed?